ReZero, Volume 2, Chapter 2, Part 1. The promise to Mourn grows distant. In the dining hall, the twins led them to where breakfast was to be held. The girl with curly hair said in place of a greeting, "Watching from above, I felt dismay at seeing your considerably disappointing head, I wonder." Amelia had split off midway to return to her room to change clothes, so at that moment only Subaru and the curly-haired girl were in the dining hall. Subaru made a sour face at her sarcasm. "What's with talking like that on a fine morning like this, Lolly?" "What is that term, I wonder? I've never heard it, yet it feels distinctly unpleasant." "It means you're not on my list. I never go for girls younger than me." "Perhaps I should pity you for having insulted me so." Deliberately ignoring the sarcastic girl's words, Subaru looked over the dining hall. A table covered in a white cloth was at the center. The plates had already been set. If one was set for Subaru, it was surely the lowest seat at the table. "I don't know anything about table manners. How about I let you give me pointers?" "Is that arrogance, I wonder? If you do not understand, simply say so and lower your head." "If I could do that much, I might as well just sit in the big chair and really irritate you." The girl shook with anger, her face going red as Subaru waved with a palm and sat in the big chair. It would probably be Amelia or the lord of the manor who'd sit there, with 50-50 odds for each. Seeing Subaru genuinely unable to get comfortable in the chair, the curly-haired girl shook her exasperated face. "Well, fine. More importantly, have you no words with which to thank me?" "Thanks? I asked for your help just now and you brushed me off, didn't you? And what kind of person asks to be thanked? I'd want to see the look on your dad's face for that one." "What are you angry for, I wonder? I should be the angry one. After all, I did—" They kept egging each other on. The girl, her voice flustered at Subaru's reply, never quite finished her sentence. Mindful of the unnatural pause, Subaru prompted her to continue, but the door to the dining hall opened and the twin maids came in, pushing a cart. "Pardon us, dear guest, I shall set the meal. Pardon us, dear guest, I shall set the tableware and the tea." The blue-haired girl laid out an orthodox breakfast menu consisting of salad, bread, and the like, while the pink-haired girl briskly poured and placed cups of tea. The warm scents made Subaru's stomach grumble out of nowhere. "Whoa, not bad at all. Now this is a breakfast fit for nobility. I was worried it was going to be some weird out-of-this-world thing." Subaru, worried that any strange thing could have potentially be served there, was considerably relieved. When he looked all around, he couldn't place anything in particular that seemed to pose physical or mental danger. His enthusiasm rising, Subaru leaned back against the chair, making it creak. The sound echoed throughout the dining room, bringing a hint of annoyance to the girl's soothing face. For some reason, Subaru couldn't resist needling the curly-haired girl. Waiting to see her soothing face break down further, Subaru, full of mischief, decided to move his butt all around the chair. However, before he could do so, a new individual entered the dining hall, his happy-sounding voice interrupting everything else. "Oh, my, you certainly seem rather spry. That is good, very good." He was a tall man, at least half a head above Subaru's height, wearing his dark blue hair long to nearly cover his entire back. But his body seemed not so much slender as delicate, with his skin colors ghastly pale. Combined with the look of his face, he somehow seemed like some sort of pretty boy. The effect was further accentuated by his left and right eyes being different colors, the first yellow and the other blue. Well, it might have looked if he wasn't decked out in that weird outfit and makeup that made him look like a clown. "Man, you hired a jester to entertain us before breakfast? I'll never get how rich folks think." Beatrice watched and commented, "I have some idea what you must be thinking, but I shall not get in the way." "Don't be that way, Betty. We're friends, right? Let's do some more small talk." "What kind of relationship do you and I have, I wonder? Also, do not speak my name so casually." The girl snubbed him with a shrug and withdrew from the conversation. Subaru scowled at her behavior as the clown walking into the dining hall opened his eyes wide, looking at both her and Subaru. "Oh my! It is rare to see Beatrice here. Is it not fruitious that you decided to share a meal with me after so long?"
If that man over there is the only optimist, wouldn't that already be too many, I wonder? I'll wait for Pucky, and Pucky alone.
Brushing off his chummy statement, the girl, Beatrice, shifted to behind the clown. The silver-haired girl, having finished changing her attire, entered the dining hall a bit after the clown.
Pucky!
Practically leaping from her seat, Beatrice ran over, her long skirt swaying. Seeing a smile, like a flower in bloom, come over her was so adorable that it made him forget how he'd pegged the girl as cheeky. Her gaze was trained on Amelia, but it was not Amelia who replied.
"Hey, Betty. It's been 4 days. Have you been happy and ladylike?"
Beatrice nodded at the words of the buoyant little gray kitty popping out of Amelia's hair.
"I've been eagerly awaiting your return, Pucky. You would enjoy spending the day together, I wonder." "Yeah, that'd be great. Both of us can take it easy for 1 day." "That is wonderful."
Puck left off Amelia's shoulder to land upon Beatrice's outstretched palms. As she caught Puck, Beatrice lovingly embraced him and ran around in circles then and there. Subaru was struck senseless by the happy, carefree scene as Amelia walked over with a teasing smile. "Tee-hee, aren't they merry? Puck and Beatrice are very close, you see." Nobody uses merry anymore. When Subaru gave Amelia his stock reply for when she used outdated words, Amelia went, and pointed Subaru's way. "Subaru, that chair—" "Oh, right. It's not what you think. I mean, a cold chair really throws you off, so I figured I'd warm it up a little. It wasn't that I just wanted to sit where you usually sit, like an indirect sit-down, really." "Sorry, I'm not really sure what you mean, but that's Roswaal's seat." With Subaru's big scheme foiled, he slid off the chair in front of the wide-eyed Amelia. "Oh, there's no need for concern. I see your warmth may not reach Lady Amelia, but I shall treasure it greatly." The clown reached out and patted Subaru's shoulder, smiling at him in consolation. The touch to his shoulder and the gently smiling, made-up face drew a sour frown from Subaru. "This clown's acting real chummy. It's not polite to touch the dancing girls, you know." "Since when did you become a no, Subaru, this man is—" My, I do not mind. Lady Amelia, considering how he went from being at death's door to being in such high spirits, should we not be quite grateful?" The clown's tone of voice excelled at getting on one's nerves, yet his statement was extremely sensible. The others continued to watch the clown as he slowly sat down in the chair, the very chair at the head of the table that Subaru had been seated in just before. "Hey now, not that I should say this, but sitting in someone else's chair is going to take people off." Amelia made an exasperated face at Subaru's statement as she murmured, "No need to worry about that. You really should introduce yourself to Subaru." It seemed Amelia's exasperation was also directed towards the clown. "What do you mean?" "In other words, she means this." The clown seated in the chair replied to Subaru's query as he spread his arms open wide. "'Tis I, Lord of the Manor, Roswaal Mathers. It is good that you feel so safe and comfortable under my roof, Subaru Natsuki." And so the deviant noble, dressed as a clown, introduced himself in a lively manner, thoroughly devoid of shame. Beginning with Roswaal in the seat of honor, they sat in prearranged seats and began breakfast. This is better than usual." Subaru was admiring the food before his eyes, reminiscent of salad and soup. Roswaal nodded back, seeming to take personal pride in Subaru's appraisal of the cooking as he looked at Rem. Indeed. She may not look it, but Rem's cooking is quite something." When Subaru looked at Rem, too, she made a fox sign with a hand. Subaru didn't know what it meant, but it might have been this world's version of making a V with your fingers. Subaru made a frog with both hands in reply. So the Blued, is she calling you Rem fine? So you cooked this? Yes, dear guest. Rem handles the meals in this household. Sister is not especially good at this. Oh, so it's like you twins have different specialties. So your sister's really good at cleaning? Yes, Sister specializes in cleaning inside and doing the laundry. So since you're good at all the cooking, you're not so good at cleaning and laundry, Remrin? No, I excel at all domestic chores, including cleaning and laundry, more than my sister. What's she here for, then? An older twin sister, worse at everything under the sun than her little sister? This was a new one. The older sister seemed to pay no heed to Rem's statement. Subaru couldn't prove it, but he guessed the words were true, so why wasn't Ram bothered by it at all? So maybe it's different fields, huh? Ramchi does combat stuff and the other does more domestic stuff. Not a bad guess, though Ram and Rem make a poor first impression because of their idiosyncrasies, yes? Hard for that to stand out when their master's so unique, Rozchi. By Rozchi, Subaru was addressing the man in charge by a pet name, but Roswaal let the statement pass with practiced ease. Subaru had an ingrained tendency to get a rise out of people, but not so here. That said, the items on the menu vanished from the plates one after another before they knew it. It'd be something of a dilemma if the food wasn't good, but it's delicious, so no prob. Right, Amelia-tan? Amelia wiped her lips with a napkin, grimacing at Subaru's carefree words. Subaru tilted his head, wondering what was up, as Amelia exhaled slightly. You know, Subaru, you shouldn't speak at the dinner table. It's rude to Ram and Rem, who prepared this all by themselves. Without proper manners, you'll make blunders during important occasions, so... No one uses blunder anymore. Table manners, huh? Kind of late to learn them now, though, right? Subaru delivered his cliché while motioning towards the dining hall with his hand. In spite of the spacious hall, Subaru was sitting right beside Amelia. By rights, the two would be seated quite far apart to make full use of the dining table. But I moved closer because I wanted to eat with Amelia-tan. Roswaal didn't say he minded, so what's the big deal? I mean, you can give me any veggies you don't like. All right, you can have my green pepper. Wait, that's not the point. I'm being an idiot. Subaru laughed, finding it cute how Amelia tapered her lips in a pout at being outdone in their verbal jousting. After that, Subaru belatedly brought up an issue Amelia's words had raised. Incidentally, Rozchi, I thought I heard Amelia-tan say this household has only 2 maids working here. Ah, yes, such is currently the case. Ram and Rem are the only ones left. 2 people handling a place this huge? You'd think people would die from overwork, no matter how good they are. That said, it doesn't feel like you're going to be hiring any new maids here. Roswaal was silent to Subaru's question, crossing his arms at the table. Roswaal's face displayed a smile, but the eyes with which he regarded Subaru had subtly changed. You truly are a mystery, having come to the house of Mathers as the far reaches of the kingdom of Lagunica, yet you do not know the circumstances? Amazing that you made it past royal customs. Well, I am kind of an undocumented immigrant in a sense. Subaru's casual reply startled Amelia. She gave him a glare like she was scolding a young child. I can't believe it. If you say things like that so easily, bad people will make mincemeat out of you. Nobody uses mincemeat anymore. Don't joke about this. Hey, Subaru, is that really true? Is everyone where you come from like this? Or is it really just you who doesn't know? Subaru, feeling bad at how Amelia was genuinely worried, reflected upon his own behavior. More like my education's especially lacking. So if it's no bother, I really would be grateful if you filled me in. You seem an educated enough child to me from the big words you're using, but... This here's my debut with high society. There are things you don't know either, Amelia-ton. Honorifics like that and extra polite words seem to throw you off. You do have a point. Amelia seemed to shrink at Subaru's observation. Seeing Amelia like that surprised him, but it was not the wilting Amelia who followed up, but Roswaal, previously silent in the seat of honor. I do understand what you are saying, but Lady Amelia is currently studying such things, you see. Studying, huh? Wait, you mean we lost her when we were talking earlier? You truly do have an active mind. It is because you think so much that you can make such thoughtless-sounding statements. Subaru slouched from Roswaal's apparent praise before giving his own chest a thump. Thinking while you live is just common sense. It's the duty of every man to think on his feet for when the chips are down. That or your guts get spilled all over the floor. I feel like your guts kind of did spill on the... Back to the other subject. Subaru, do you know this country's... the Kingdom of Laguna's situation at the moment? Not the smallest, tiniest bit. Hearing you say it like that, I'm shocked you've lived that long. That doesn't sound like praise to me, Subaru thought while looking fondly at Amelia. He wasn't trying to arouse her protective instincts, but she was certainly giving him that mother-hen feeling. By situation, you mean the country's in a bad spot? Roswaal carefully chose his words. A fairly difficult situation, yes, for Lagunica currently lacks a king. Subaru's breath caught as it sank in. He gave the man in performer makeup a guarded look as he sat straighter in his chair. There is no need for such concern. The gravity of the situation is already well known to the public, you see. Well, that's good. I was thinking I'd learned a dangerous secret, and I would never get out alive. It's sad you're hearing it first from us. Anyway, the nation's highly unstable right now, Amelia said. I see, thought Subaru, as that sank in. A kingdom without a king was in a very precarious situation. The sudden death of a king, from natural causes or otherwise, could shake a country to its core. But isn't that usually dealt with by having a child of the king inherit and take over? Usually it is the case. However, that went awry due to an incident half a year ago when a great plague struck inside the palace walls. As Roswaal told it, they announced that the epidemic only affected those of a particular bloodline, and so the king and his descendants dwelling in the castle perished. Can't blame them for getting sick and dying, but what's going to happen to this country then? If there's no royal bloodline, what, start a democracy and elect a prime minister? I do not comprehend the latter part of your statement, but presently a council of elders manages the affairs of the country, formed from great families decorating the kingdom's history. The country will continue to operate. However, after pausing a moment, Roswaal grew tenser. A kingdom must have a king. I suppose so. Even if just for show, you couldn't have an organization without someone at its head, let alone a kingdom. I see, reflected Subaru. I've got the gist of it. In other words, the country has no king, and it's in a jumble while it's trying to pick a new one. Your relations with foreign countries are deteriorating, and you're in international isolation. So a mysterious foreigner like me appearing is super suspicious. Furthermore, by making contact with Lady Amelia, you have become associated with the House of Mathers, you see. Though the evidence is circumstantial, that is all some would need to... Roswaal lowered his eyes and traced a line across his throat with his thumb. Though Roswaal looked like he was joking, Subaru suddenly broke out in a cold sweat. He had a bad feeling about something. He'd picked up on it earlier, but it loomed larger and larger with each passing moment. Why is the lord of the manor calling Amelia-ton lady? The golden rule of any household was that everyone paid respect to the person of the highest rank. When Roswaal laughed, Subaru felt like the bud of anxiety in his chest had begun to bloom. Is it not natural to address someone of higher rank than I with proper respect? Subaru froze with his mouth open. He looked at Amelia so robotically that you could hear the gears turn in his neck. The girl, a grimace on her face, sighed with resignation. I don't want you to think I was pulling the wool over your eyes, all right? In other words, Amelia Tan, you're... Subaru stubbornly stuck to the nickname as she seemed to drive in the final nail. Currently, my title is Royal Candidate, one of those seeking to become the 42nd ruler of the Kingdom of Lagunica, with the backing of Roswaal's house, that is. Her words made Subaru feel like he'd insulted heaven itself. So, the pretty girl he stumbled upon in the other world was a queen. That word alone firmly established that this was a true blue fantasy world. Technically, she was a candidate to be queen. When he remembered his time in contact with her now... Man, 3 lives aren't enough to pay for this, are they? Sorry to surprise you this much. I really hadn't meant to keep quiet about it, but... well... Hey, I'm not upset. You truly are as kind as an angel, Amelia Tan. Eh? Subaru's overly direct words made Amelia's face look shocked, then scarlet. Well, you're the reason everything's happened since I've been here, Amelia. You're seriously EMT. Amelia Tan's a major treasure. That's my honest opinion. Now I think I understand how I got involved with you. You'll brush off anything from anyone. Let's just get to the point, shall we? Traces of redness still on her face, Amelia clapped her hands to reset the scene. Though still seated, the earlier sense of distance seemed to return. Subaru was forced to go along. I feel like I'm interrupting, but regardless, let us indeed get to the point, shall we? Is it fine with you, Subaru? Based on my head not flying off my shoulders, I'm guessing it's nothing all that bad. Roswaal whistled at Subaru's words. Amelia looked equally taken off guard, for both surely saw Subaru's words and actions as a sign that he had a firm understanding of their intentions. Of course, both were reading far too much into it, but that flew way over Subaru's head. Well, that's what I guessed about the point, based on your telling me Amelia Tan's a royal candidate and why that's important, right? Amelia made a bleated remark. Subaru, are you actually smart, or are you simply wrong in the head? Those are 2 extreme choices, Subaru antagonized as Amelia stuck out her tongue at him a little. She was cute, so all was forgiven. Notwithstanding Subaru's internal simplicity, Roswaal followed up after Amelia's apology. Your guess is quite on target. This matter is deeply related to what shall become of you. Lady Amelia? I understand. Amelia nodded when called, pulled out something, and set it on the table. Her white fingertips pushed it forwards. Subaru raised his brows when he saw it. That's the badge from... Glittering atop a white cloth, it was a badge with a dragon motif, a jewel embedded in the center of its maw. It was also the key item stolen by the light-fingered felt, which Subaru had returned to Amelia, its proper owner, coming back from 3 deaths to do it. The deep, serene twinkle of the jewel struck Subaru's eyes, filling him with newfound awe. The dragon is the symbol of Lagunica, you see, enough that it is known by the rather grand name, the Dragon Fiend Kingdom of Lagunica. Castle walls and weapons are often adorned with this symbol, but this badge is particularly important. When Roswaal took a pregnant pause, Subaru looked at him to urge him to continue. Roswaal shifted his gaze to Amelia to suggest she proceed. Amelia closed her eyes as her lips trembled. It is one's qualification as a royal candidate, a test to determine if the person is worthy of sitting on the throne of the Kingdom of Lagunica. Her statement, said in a strained voice, made Subaru's eyes go wide. The badge sitting on the table, a dragon with wings outstretched in the glittering jewel, supported the proof of her claim. Hold on here. You lost the badge that proves you're a royal candidate? That's putting it rather crudely. A light-fingered girl stole it. Same difference. With that great shout, Subaru smacked his palms against the dining table as he rose to his feet. The impact threatened to make utensils fall to the floor, but Rem's quick follow-up prevented that. Subaru paid that no heed as he spoke. Wait, seriously, what had happened if you didn't have it? That's like the type of item that's really, really bad to throw away, right? They can't issue another one. Well, if a candidate loses it, it won't end with just talk and excuses, yes? With Subaru all flustered, Roswaal adjusted the lapel of his unnecessarily large outfit as he spoke. A king carries the kingdom on his shoulders. It is thought that a person who cannot protect a single small badge cannot be entrusted with a responsibility as grave as an entire land. Well, that figures. If anyone knew, it'd be a huge scandal. Which means the strife in the royal capital over the stolen badge and the warm reception now. It could mean only one thing. Subaru continued. It's really bad if the public finds out you lost the badge. That's why Amelia Tan was looking for it all by herself. Amelia replied, Yes, that's right. Felt was the one who stole it, but Elsa was the client, and she said someone else put her up to it. Meaning someone's trying to stop Amelia Tan from becoming queen? That would appear to be the case, but there is no simpler way to disqualify someone than to steal the badge. Inside Subaru, everything that had taken place the day before started to come together. How Amelia stubbornly refused his help, felt in her client, Elsa, Subaru being murdered 3 times over. All of it was rooted in the value of that badge. So, too, was why Subaru was there at the manor. Man, looking back on it, I did a super good job. Man, I need a bigger reward, huh? Subaru was full of himself now that he was suddenly knew the importance of his own actions. He looked down at Amelia haughtily, wagging his finger teasingly. He was waiting for the punchline, but... Yeah, you're right. You've been a huge help to me, Subaru. So much that merely saving your life isn't enough. That's how much this means to me. The way she lifted her hand to her breast, giving Subaru a serious look, put him at a loss for words. The stiffness of his cheeks didn't match the tense, serious aura all around him. Oh man, I seriously suck at reading the mood. Subaru's inability to read the tension in the air clashed with the serious look on Amelia's face. Finally, amid his great embarrassment. What are you doing? My hand just kinda reached out. With Amelia staring at him, Subaru had gently brushed his fingertips into her hair, not so much stroking her head as simply passing his fingers through the hair and enjoying the feeling. I'm an easygoing guy. I was just thinking this would be reward enough for me. You struck Puck's fur too. Subaru, do you have some kind of hair fetish? Subaru let out a yell at the harsh assessment. Hey, wait. Fur and hair aren't the same thing at all. Your silver hair is really pretty. Amelia's silver hair truly felt smooth as silk. Its soft charm bewitched Subaru in an entirely different way from Puck's fur. But for some reason, Subaru's words made Amelia lower her eyes with a pained look. Subaru tilted his head, not knowing the reason for Amelia's action. His head was still like that when he felt a gaze from behind. Perhaps we are in the way. We could leave you two to yourselves. Your concern's the dictionary definition of none of your business, and it's still my turn to ask questions. Subaru continued enjoying the feel of Amelia's hair as he used his free hand to point at Roswaal. I understand Amelia Tan's being a candidate for becoming queen, but what about the business of you backing her? You really are rather observant. You've picked up the previous matters quite well, though this is all second nature to any human born and raised in the city. I'm honored to have your praise, Count, though a simple anime and romance novel is kind of prepared my mind for this fantasy stuff. Like any reader, he'd been thrust into original scenarios with confusing, hard-to-remember world buildings. Stuffing this level of background info into his head was no big accomplishment. Well, it's not something I was trying to conceal. My title is the Kingdom of Lagunicas. I suppose technically I am Lord of the Outer Regions, but my role sounds better expressed as court magician, perhaps? Court magician? So you handle magic use at the castle? Amelia picked up where Subaru's words left off. Yes, that's the magician of the highest rank. He's the foremost magic user in the entire kingdom." She looked a little dissatisfied nonetheless. Roswaal seemed nothing but pleased with Amelia's reply, smiling as he brought some tea to his lips. "So, continuing my earlier topic, I stand in support of Lady Amelia's royal candidacy. I am the shield behind her, her patron, so to speak." A patron, huh? A representative for those backing her, so that was the position of the man before his eyes. Subaru looked anew at the tall man in clown makeup before gently trading a glance with Amelia. "I don't mean to put this the wrong way, but... Amelia Tan, are you sure about this guy?" "It can't be helped. He's the only one in the kingdom I can ask for support. In the first place, only a meddlesome eccentric like Roswaal would help someone like me, so..." "Ah, I see. Process of elimination. Quite a conversation you two are having right in front of your patron, if I may say so." Perhaps feeling somewhat slandered, Roswaal gave off an adult chuckle rather than anger. Maybe he had really thick skin. That, or he simply took pleasure in ignoring people. "So, back to the point, Rozchi. I get that you're Amelia Tan's sponsor. It's cute how she goes from one extreme to another to hide how she's a bit of an airhead. But acting on her own like she did yesterday in the Capitol, that's kind of rare, huh?" "I would call it unprecedented. Though Ram should have been with her." Roswaal made a strange smile as he shifted the topic to Ram. When Subaru looked at her, he saw she had the same hairstyle and face as Ram, standing beside her. At least you could nicely tell them apart by their hair color. "Man, that totally smug, I got away with it just as I hoped look gets on my nerves." Whether she intended to reflect on her error or not, he had her over a barrel. However, Amelia raised a hand in her defense, with an awkward look on her face. It's not Ram's fault. Yesterday I split up from Ram because I lost out on my curiosity and wandered all around." "What's that doe-eyed little girl excuse? Amelia Tan being an airhead doesn't change the fact that she didn't fulfill her lord's commands. Is that all right?" With Amelia trying to cover for Ram, Subaru pointed a finger from each hand at her before he shifted them over to Roswaal. "You do have a point, though I share responsibility for Ram's lack of discretion. But what are you trying to say, I wonder?" "Simple. You are the ones who dropped the ball by taking your eyes off someone important like Amelia Tan. That's where I came into the picture. I'm saying that if you had it all covered to begin with, none of this would have happened." Subaru's little speech changed the looks on everyone's faces. Amelia raised her eyebrows. One of the twins looked apologetic, while the other glared with hostility. Beatrice still had her heated gaze trained on Puck, while Puck was precariously stuck headfirst into the egg yolk on the dish before her. And Roswaal gave a pleasant smile, nodding as if he agreed. "I see. Certainly Lady Amelia's worth exceeds my considerable personal fortune. It is appropriate that you should seek a reward only from me, as her sponsor, is it not?" "Yep. And you're not going to say no, are you, Rozchi? I mean, I saved Amelia Tan's life and stopped her from dropping out of the royal selection. I'm totally her savior." Subaru rose from his seat and posed with a finger pointed up to the sky. "I must admit that is the truth. Now then, would you care to elaborate?" Roswaal, too, rose from his seat, looking down at Subaru from his superior height. Amelia looked worried as she watched Subaru and Roswaal stare at each other down. "What is it that you seek from me? I cannot refuse your request, if only to prevent this matter from becoming public knowledge. Now, then, what is your desire?" "That's noble for you. You really get it. Whatever reward I want. And you can't say no, Rozchi. A man doesn't take back his word." "That is quite a saying. I see a man would make you excuses. No reneging on his word." Subaru's petty villain behavior made him hear his popularity meter drop in his mind, but the entire effort was devoted to dragging that one statement out of him. Roswaal's consent made Subaru's inner self smile. "I want one thing and one thing only. I want you to hire me." Compared to the extended foreplay, Subaru's declaration was plain and simple. The girls behind Subaru were in shock at his statement. The looks on the twins' faces became mildly conflicted, whereas Beatrice looked seriously perturbed. As for Amelia, It is not for me to say, but that is kind of... Her eyes were so wide that even the sublime beauty she was born with lost half its power. You're cute even when you're surprised, but are you that against the idea? It's not like that. You want so little. It was like Amelia was angry at him as she slapped the table and closed the distance with Subaru. It's not just the thing with Puck, okay? It's like when you asked me my name in the royal capital. Amelia listed the rewards Subaru had claimed to the best of her knowledge. Amelia knew what he'd done to get those rewards. She shook her head like she really didn't understand. You don't understand how grateful I feel. I can't repay you at all for saving my life and more, if you ask for so little. Amelia's inflection tapered off as she pressed a palm to Subaru's chest and lowered her head. Hearing Amelia's lament, Subaru painfully understood his own thoughtlessness. Amelia had always felt indebted to him. She wanted to pay him back in some suitable way. But the same went for Subaru. Subaru had always been indebted to Amelia, and twice he had become indebted to her in a way he could never repay. He could not repay kindness that had never happened. Before him, Amelia raised up her wavering violet eyes. Seeing the serious look with her plea, Subaru abandoned all thought of kidding around or papering it over. Subaru decided to convey to Amelia how he really felt with all the seriousness he could muster. You don't understand, Amelia-tan. At the time, that was what I truly wanted from the bottom of my heart, you see. Huh? At the time, I wanted to know your name. I think being in a new, uncertain land with no idea what would come the next day. If I'd stopped to think about it, there were a lot of things I could have considered. But I'm a man who can't lie to himself. It was a reward for which he died 3 times. For nothing more than to see the smiling face of the silver-haired girl before his eyes, and to learn her name. At that moment, there was no greater reward he could wish for. My request to roast cheese like that too, right now. I'm totally broke. Sure, I could ask for a pile of gold, but why not set myself up so I can make a living long term? If you wanted that, you could ask to just live here for free, not as a manservant, you know? Oh, I could have done that? Hey, Mr. Roswaal, could you let me live as a Looking at Roswaal as Subaru tried to amend his wish, the man crossed his hands above his head in an X mark. I shall honor the first request. A man does not take back his word, does he? Whoa, you're right. A man doesn't do that, huh? Subaru cheerfully found his request denied because someone had to open his big mouth earlier. And I thought for a moment there you seemed actually serious. I must have just imagined it. And then Amelia Tan lowers my rating. That's kicking me while I'm down. Subaru realized he'd passed up the chance to establish the perfect, easy life in a fantasy world environment. He didn't need to lower the beautiful girl's opinion of him on top of that. Anyways, that's how it is, so... Ramchi and Remrin must be straining to take care of this place all by themselves, so please let me work under them. It is true that it is an actual concern, though I believe it is as Amelia said, it is indeed asking rather little. With Roswaal showing a strained smile for once, Subaru put up his left and right index fingers and wiggled them. I'm a super greedy guy, actually. Living under the same roof as a super cute, beautiful girl who's totally my type. What guy would want that? Close in body is close to the heart, and opportunities abound. I see. Certainly, as you say. It is a rare one who gets to work by the side of girls one is interested in. Is it not? Quite pleasant for you. Well, besides... Subaru stopped wiggling his fingers and used them to scratch his unkempt hair. Besides, you're not going to let a guy you know nothing about like me just pack up and leave. And to me, the pros and cons say I should stay with Amelia-tan. Subaru knew a few too many inconvenient things. He was declaring his belief that nothing good would happen to him if he left the manor without any means of protecting himself. If Roswaal had never considered any such thing, no doubt he would have taken extreme offense. But in contrast to Subaru's awkward feelings about it, then it shall be as you ask. I hope we get along very nicely. Roswaal's instant reply came with one eye closed, looking at Subaru with his yellow eye alone. Subaru couldn't read what he was thinking behind that suspicious twinkle. Incidentally, Subaru was very embarrassed inside from having made such a strong public confession. But when Subaru timidly looked at Amelia's expression, "Goodness, you really are a hopeless child. Did something happen?" Her perfectly calm reply left Subaru at a loss for words. Maybe he was overthinking it? This was just the result of his lack of experience with being around a beautiful girl. Man, dealing with a girl I like this much is getting me all worked up. Amelia, watching Subaru get fired up on a tangent instead of dealing with more pressing matters, murmured in a little voice, "Which one's more your type, I wonder? Ram or Rem?" Amelia put a finger to her lips in a huff, taking what he'd said earlier completely the wrong way.